Hey guys, what's up? Non-Zero here, bringing you the Week 5 Team Builder and Match Analysis for the DGBA. This week we're up against the Vancouver Venusaurs, and my opponent is rocking a team of Tapu Bulu, Kartana with the Z Crystal, Latias, Mega Blastoise, Galvantula, Alolan Muck, Arcanine, Landorus Incarnate, Chandelure, Lucario, and Azelf. So a few things stick out about my opponent's team. One is the really strong grass mode he has. Of course, both Tapu Bulu and Kartana hitting really hard from the physical side with their grass attacks. And also he has access to sticky webs in Galvantula, and that can potentially be a pretty big problem for this team. So with those in mind, I decided to build my team around the defensive core of Skarmory and Goodra. Let's go ahead and jump into the 6 I'm going to bring for this matchup, starting with Goodra, aka Slime Pile, rocking a Sultfest Max FitF set, just sort of the same kind of set that's been putting in work in previous weeks. I have Flamethrower here, Earthquake, Draco, and Ice Beam just to hit basically his entire team. The Earthquake in particular is there to hit the Alolan Muck, which would otherwise be a very good switch into this thing. And for that reason I actually went with a minus speed instead of a minus attack nature, so that I can 2-hit KO most variants of the Alolan Muck. So this Goodra is really just meant to take the special hits, do some damage back, and also take those grass type attacks because of Sap Sipper coming out from the Tapu Bulu and the Kartana. So the second mon in this core, Skarmory, the Celesteelas Jr., rocking a Leftovers max defensive set, Defog, Whirlwind, Roost, and Stealth Rock. Now, the reason I went with Whirlwind over something like a Toxic or an attacking move is I didn't want Kartana to be able to set up on this thing, which otherwise it would be able to. I didn't want this thing also to be set up fodder for some of his other mons that might be able to set up on it. So Whirlwind I felt like it was just a good idea, to be able to get everything on out of there that tries to set up on this thing, take advantage of the fact that it really can't do anything offensively. This Skarmory is just meant to take hits from his physical threats, especially Kartana and Tapu Bulu. You can switch in on those things, you can stall them out a bit, Whirlwind them out, get hazards up, and just sort of a nice physical wall that allows me to hopefully win the Hazard War as well. So for my next pick, making its debut for the Pittsburgh Celesteelas in Week 5, we have boy Clef's Shadow, running a Focus Sash set, just max special attack, max speed, with Shadow Ball, Sludge Wave, and Hidden Power Ice, and then Will-O-Wisp to hit the incoming Alolan Muck, which I think is probably going to be my opponent's initial switch into this thing. So Gengar really does a lot to my opponent's team, especially late game if I've been able to weaken or eliminate the Alolan Muck. It doesn't have that many switch-ins to the combination of Sludge Wave, Shadow Ball, and Hidden Power Ice. So I really think that this Gengar might be able to put in some work in the upcoming match. So the next couple of mons on my team were designed to give my team the speed that I really like to run in general. And to the first mon will be a Choice Scarf Songe de Feu, U-Turn, Flare Blitz, Hidden Power Ice, and Earthquake. The combination of those 4 attacks just hits basically everything on my opponent's team, bar the Mega Blastoise. Earthquake is to hit the Chandelure, which might be an initial switch into this thing, and also to hit that Alolan Muck. Early game, I'll probably be clicking U-Turn for this thing, especially because the Latias might be a switch-in potentially to Infernape, so I could see this mon definitely generating some momentum, especially on the early game. And my next mon is sort of built with the same kind of idea in mind. That mon is Lieutenant Surge, the Tapu Koko, carrying another Choice Scarf, so got dual Scarfers on this team, with Volt Switch, Hidden Power Ice, U-Turn, and Thunderbolt. Of course, the Hidden Power Ices on Lieutenant Surge and Songe de Feu, both of those are just to hit that Landorus, which can definitely be a problem for this team otherwise. Now I was considering running Dazzling Gleam over Volt Switch to hit the Latias a bit harder, but I ended up going with Volt Switch, especially because if I can get the Landorus Incarnate eliminated with an early HP Ice, I'll be able to later just click Volt Switch on his entire team. I think that's just going to be so good. Now these dual Scarfers also mean that if my opponent does somehow manage to get up the sticky webs, I'll still have some mons that outspeed basically his entire team, barring of course mons like Azelf as well as any Scarfers that he's potentially bringing. Alright, so those are the first 5 mons. Now the 6th mon is a mon that definitely changed a couple of times. At first I was going to bring something like a defensive Mew set, something like Toxic, Roost, maybe 2 attacks, something like Earth Power, Ice Beam, or Flamethrower. something along those lines. I ended up actually opting to go for Gyarados for the sole reason that I needed something to hit the Latias. Now, I could also bring Bisharp here, but the problem with Bisharp is that it really cannot touch the Lucario. It also has a very hard time doing anything against the Mega Blastoise, which can of course just OHKO it with an Aura Sphere. So that's why I opted instead to bring this Mega Gyarados, just rocking my same max attack, adamant nature set with enough speed to outrun Azelf at +1. Just the same Dragon Dance and 3 attack set that I've been running pretty much every week that I've brought this thing. Now I don't actually need the water coverage, it turns out, because Waterfall is only hitting Chandelure and Arcanine, and Earthquake also hits both of those, Crunch of course hitting Chandelure a bit harder. And it's actually more useful for this thing to carry just the coverage of Crunch, Ice Fang, and Earthquake. Ice Fang of course hitting the Landorus as well as the Tapu Bulu, and Earthquake of course hitting mons like Lucario and Alolan Muck. So this mon is definitely my main win condition going into the match. I think that this mon can definitely put in some work if I manage to get up a couple of Dragon Dances. It will be able to outspeed and do lots of damage to his entire team. I will need to make sure that the Tapu Bulu and the Kartana are both weakened, however, because I cannot, even with Ice Fang on the Tapu Bulu, because of how high that thing's defenses are, I will definitely need some prior damage to make a sweep this thing a reality. Anyways, that's the team, and so I'm feeling pretty good about the matchup. I think it's a decent matchup for this team. I think that my bulky mons can take on most of his offensive threats, and the rest of my brings put a lot of pressure on his team, so hopefully the matchup goes well. I'll be right back with the game, so see you guys then. And we are back with the game. My opponent deciding to bring a team of Alolan Muck, Lucario, Tapu Bulu, Latias, Azelf, and Galvantula. So Azelf and Galvantula are probably my opponent's potential leads, but noting that he doesn't have any ground types, I decided I'm just going to lead out with my Scarf Tapu Koko and click a nice and powerful Volt Switch. So that's exactly what happens. I'll lead off with Lieutenant Surge, the Tapu Koko, and click Volt Switch turn 1 on his Azelf, doing a nice 75%, more than U-turn would have done. And I go out into my Celesteela Jr. in the Skarmory, intending to get rid of his hazards. However, he is packing the Taunt, which is not too surprising, so I can't defog. I go ahead and double out into my Slime Pile. You can take on basically anything this Azelf wants to go for, and it does take this Flamethrower really well. I can KO it back with any of my coverage moves. I opt to go for Flamethrower here, but he goes out into his Muck, so that makes some sense. I decided I want to go ahead and weaken this thing, especially for my Gengar, because after Muck is gone, my Gengar no longer has to worry about anything switching into its Shadow Ball. Basically, my opponent doesn't have any Ghost Resist other than this Muck, so this Muck is also the thing that can Pursuit Trap my Gengar, so my Gengar really appreciates this Muck being weakened. Go ahead and go for the Earthquake here, kind of trading my Goodra for this Muck, as we're both really weakened at this point. I don't think he's going to sack this thing, so I go ahead and double out here, expecting the Muck to want to switch out, and he does switch out into his Azelf. Now I'm not sure if he's going to go for the Taunt here, because he knows that I've seen it last time. But just in case, because I kind of expect him to want his rocks to stay up on his side of the field, I do go out into my Goodra on the expected taunt. And the incoming move is in fact taunt, so my Goodra, of course, being Assault Vest, doesn't care about the taunt. And I go ahead and take out this Azelf. Now the burn there is kind of unfortunate, but it doesn't really matter here because I would have been in range of the incoming Latias' Psychic anyways. So I'm just going to go ahead and stack this Goodra to the Psychic as I go down. And at this point, I want to switch into my Celesteela Jr. just to scout what this Latias wants to go for. It does double out into the Galvantula as I get rid of the Stealth Rocks. Now I don't want to sack my Skarmory to the incoming Thunder, so I go ahead and switch into Infernape here. Infernape can take a Life Orb Thunder if it needs to, and it does of course threaten Galvantula out with its Fire Stab. Unfortunately for my opponent, he does miss the Thunder, even though he's probably packing Compound Eyes, so that's unfortunate for my opponent. However, he does not switch out, which means that he's probably Focus Sash. Now at this point, I thought that Thunderbolt would KO. I didn't even calc it because I just expected, based on how frail Galvantula is, that Thunderbolt from this Tapu Koko would knock it out. Now unfortunately that's not the case, and that's just a bad mistake on my part. I should have really ran the calc just to make sure. And in fact, Galvantula survives and is able to get a powerful Thunderbolt boosted by the Electric Terrain. off on my Tapu Koko before it goes down. Now the Alolan Muck comes in, and because I don't die to this pursuit, I do go ahead and just preserve my Tapu Koko by switching it out. And I go ahead and switch into the Skarmory because I want to get rid of these sticky webs. And so that's exactly what happens. I defog away the sticky webs, and they won't be up on my side again because the Galvantula is gone, as he knocks off my leftovers. And I go ahead and get some rocks up on my opponent's side of the field, because his only method of hazard removal now is this Latias, as he reveals himself to be a Calm Mind variant of Latias. So I definitely don't want this thing to set up all over me. So turn 1 I did go for the Roost just to scout out, see what he would do, but turn 2 I am going to click this Whirlwind and get that threat on out of there, as he is sent into his Tapu Bulu. Now at this point, if he's a bit of a bulkier set, like say has access to something like Sub or Leech Seed, Bulk Up, any of those moves, he can go for those with the knowledge that I can't actually touch him. I think I've revealed all 4 of my moves at this point. So I do just go ahead and go for another Whirlwind. My opponent unfortunately does miss the Leech Seed, which is kind of bad for him, but it wouldn't have mattered too much because here I'm going to switch out anyways into my regular Gyarados, which is the mon on my team that can best handle this Lucario, as the close combat more or less bounces off. Now at this point I can't have any chance of sweeping because of the Tapu Bulu. In fact, expecting the Tapu Bulu switch in because Tapu Bulu can take 2 Ice Fangs like nothing, especially with the leftovers, I do make the double out into my Infernape. I wasn't sure whether my opponent would expect the U-turn or would expect me to try to Flare Blitz and take out the Tapu Bulu. So I do go here for the Flare Blitz play because I made the U-turn as my initial play. However, he does make the switch into Latias. I probably should have gone with the U-turn there, but based on that damage, I can tell that the Latias is very, very defensive. Now this is something that's actually kind of unfortunate for me, because at this point the main way to hit Latias that I have is U-turn and also Shadow Ball from my Gengar, and of course Crunch from my Gyarados if it Megas. But U-turn from my 2 choice Scarf Mons is going to be the main way I have to hit this Latias with Mons that are faster than this Latias. So I know at this point that my U-turns are not going to be doing too much. So I go out to my Skarmory on the incoming Psychic, as I want my Skarmory to be healthy, so I am going to go for the Roost on the first turn here. I want my Skarmory, if possible, to stay as close to Sturdy as possible, so I go ahead and click Roost turn 1, knowing that even a +1 Psychic or a +2 Psychic is not going to do that much to Skarmory because I am max HP. As I do continually just keep going for Roost, and I'm going to Roost one more time, just to bring myself up to Sturdy if he does choose to start Calm Minding up. And the next turn I'm going to go ahead and click Whirlwind, expecting either a Psychic or a Calm Mind. He does click Psychic there, keeping me off of Sturdy, which is good on his part. As the Lucario comes back out, I don't switch immediately into Gyarados. I do go ahead and just go for a Roost here, get back up to full, because I don't think that this Lucario, which revealed itself to be physical earlier, can do much to touch the Celesteela. I do manage to get back up to Sturdy, and then I go ahead and switch into Gyarados, just in case this thing tries to set up, as it does. And I know based on previous damage that I should be able to take this close combat at +1, and I am able to just barely live this close combat because of my defensive investment. And I can just knock it back out with an Earthquake. Now at this point I made something of a mistake, I think. So at this point what I ended up doing here was Mega Evolving and just Ice Fanging to get some damage off on this Tapu Bulu. Now given that I'd seen that the Latias was Calm Mind, I think it would have been good to save this thing, just in case for some reason the Latias is either mono attacking Psychic, or if it's just a really bulky set that's outsped by my Mega Gyarados with the speed investment that I do have. So I don't agree in retrospect with my play here of sacking my Mega Gyarados just to get some damage off on this Tapu Bulu. As you see here, this Ice Fang is not going to do that much, even from a Mega Gyarados, because of how bulky Tapu Bulu is. As he goes for the Leech Seed, it's just a safe way to eliminate my Mega Gyarados. As I go for the switch here into my Cleft Shadow, my Gengar. Now at this point I go for a Will-O-Wisp, because I'm expecting him to switch into his Muck, potentially, trying to take on any attacks that I might go for, especially with the grassy terrain healing him up, and maybe he has a 50% berry because he's just over the 25% mark. I was thinking that Alolan Muck would be his play. However, he did stay in with his Tapu Bulu, which is kind of unfortunate here because I do miss the Will-O-Wisp, which means that the incoming Wood Hammer is going to do a lot to my Gengar. And in fact, based on that damage, I can tell that he's not Max Attack, because Max Attack would have actually knocked me out, but he is pretty offensive based on that damage. I do, next turn, just go for the Sludge Wave, which I probably should have done turn 1, to be honest, but that was sort of a misplay on my part, I guess. Now, the Alolan Muck does come in, knock me out with the Shadow Sneak. I think that was sort of my final mistake here, was sacking this Gengar to the Shadow Sneak. I think I more or less had to keep my Gengar alive in order to win this game, because as it played out, I now suddenly don't have anything for the Calm Mind Latias. Because it is so defensive, my U-turns from Infernape and Tapu Koko are not going to be doing enough. So here I am going to go ahead and go into my Sonjtafa, my Infernape, and click U-turn. Now my problem right now is that I really don't want this Muck to be gone, because then I can't Whirlwind the Latios, or the Latias when it starts Calm Minding up. But I can't really avoid killing this Muck, because otherwise it's just going to keep chipping down my team and stall me out if I try to stall it out with Skarmory. So I do end up just taking out the Muck, and I think at this point my win condition is going to be either getting some crits or some large damage rolls. But even those, I mean, you see how little U-turn is doing to this Latias. At this point, there's not so much that I can do. Obviously, I can't Whirlwind him out. If I had brought Toxic, this would be an excellent opportunity to go for it. But I really can't risk bringing in either of my other Mons at this point. So I kind of hoped that he didn't have Roost here. That was sort of a win condition I had. If he didn't have Roost, then I could potentially hope to knock him out with the combination of the U-turns from my Infernape and my Tapu Koko. But I really, if that's what I was hoping for, I kind of maybe should have switched into one of those on one of his Calm Minds. So I'm really not sure how I was playing the endgame here. I kind of conceded at this point. There was not much I could do to eliminate that Latias. So I'm just staying in with my Skarmory. And I guess I thought my only win condition at this point was going to be if I managed to get a full para on him with my Tapu Koko. So I got out into my Tapu Koko now, expecting a Roost to roost off the U-turn damage, and I go for the Thunderbolt para. In the electric terrain, it does 8% after those Calm Mind boosts, and it doesn't get the para. So that's going to be a very good game. I definitely underestimated Calm Mind Latias here, and I think towards the end game I did make a bunch of misplays, especially in sacking my Gyarados and my Gengar. I think those two Mons were both Mons that I needed to keep around to control the Calm Mind Latias. And just definitely a good win condition for my opponent to play towards. So yeah, looking back at this game, it was a very, very good game. I think I learned a lot, even prep-wise. I think that maybe something like an Assault Bisharp could have been a good bring. But yeah, that's it for this week. Your Pittsburgh Celesteelas are now sitting at a record of 4-1. Now, week 4, we didn't actually upload anything because our opponent that week took a forfeit, so we got an effective 3-0 win for last week, meaning that at this point in time, we are 4-1. Later tonight, I'll be uploading my week 6 matchup for this league, which also just recently happened, and I'll also be uploading a draft analysis soon for another league that I joined, the Royal Battle Association, so you can look forward to seeing both of those on this channel pretty soon. Anyways, until then, see you guys later. Peace.